Hey kid, did you hear about video games? The dream of any artist is to take all that hard work you've put into your art and turning it into a way to make a living. Do you submit to laziness, easy jokes, and selling your soul to a cancerous internet publication before your redemption finally comes? Do you use your art to profit off the sick perversions of others? These are easy ways, but in some cases the audiences are baffled as to how someone like this can make money. How can someone like Tim Buckley of Ctrl+Alt+Del fame have a webcomic successful enough for him to live off it? How can the creator of this comic have legions of fans despite obviously lackluster art and extremely unoriginal writing? How did this happen? At present day, Ctrl+Alt+Delete has mostly meme appeal. Loss may be an old meme and the BU phenomenon even more. But the comic still lives on in the minds of all those who make fun of it day and night for its laughably low quality. And yet, as hard as it is to understand how this could have ever been popular, Ctrl+Alt+Delete was a webcomic giant in the mid-2000s. And outlets like Joystick, the Chicago Tribune, and the Chronicle Herald praised this abomination. Were the standards of internet comedy so low at the time? Yes, of course they were. But actually CAD still received heavy criticism from readers and peers like Penny Arcade and Zero Punctuation. How did it all begin? Here is the first strip of Ctrl+Alt+Delete from October 2002, over 15 years ago. So it's a strip about two guys who sit around and play video games? Seems a tad cliché, doesn't it? Nah, it's tried and true. Besides, we have a hook. Oh really? What? We've got a third character. What? For comparison, let's grab the first ever Penny Arcade strip from 1998. Yeah, neither of them are very funny, especially when read in a sarcastic voice, but at least Penny Arcade is trying to make a joke. Ctrl+Alt+Delete is just making a lame observation about how derivative the comic is, all the while having static art and one completely unnecessary panel. And it only gets worse from there. For the first year or so, CAD at least tries to stay true to its spirit. It's a comic strip about a wacky man-child who plays lots and lots of video games. And sure, it's never actually funny. Sure, Ethan McManus is a completely unlikable protagonist. Sure, the art is bad. Sure, it relies more on randomness and violence than actual comedy. Wait, I forgot. Was I supposed to be complimenting this comic? Art is copy-pasted relentlessly. Blurry Google images are used as backgrounds. Speech bubbles filled with lame dialogue are used in place of actual gags. Author Tim Buckley responds to this criticism as you'd expect a mature adult like him to do, by banning all the haters from his forums. Meanwhile, his popularity goes to his head, enough for him to vandalize the Wikipedia article of a rival gaming comic, PvP. Anyway, to get back to the story, we have our hero in Ethan, our sidekick in Lucas, and then there's some third guy named Scott who likes Linux or something. Anyone remember this guy? I sure didn't. But anyway, every hero needs a heroine. We need a feminine touch. We, as gamers, need to ingest a daily dosage of gamer girl sweat, or we will die.
Pretty girl on every corner.
Enter Lila. As soon as this professional gamer and completely uninteresting character is introduced into the comic, the tone shifts. Video games are referenced increasingly rarely. Instead, we waste strip after strip of Ethan's cringeworthy attempts to get Lila to become his girlfriend, which somehow end up working. At this point, the problems really begin to show. Not that the comic was good before, but during its second and third years, it gets even worse. And as much as its popularity grows, so do its haters. It's no surprise that Buckley's nature as a complete and utter cunt transferred well into Ethan's character. He's a selfish, dim-witted asshole to everyone and completely unable to handle even the most basic aspects of his life. And yet, he has a girlfriend, friends, a job, disposable income to throw on video games, and most importantly, he's somehow alive after everything he does. He creates a sentient robot from an Xbox by sheer accident. Everyone seems to like him and go along with his man-child antics to the point of Lila apologizing to him for having a miscarriage. And yes, those are words that I just said.
Sunshine turns the sky to gold.
Wait a minute, I hear no one say when mentioning miscarriage in this gamer comic, because everyone knows what happened on that infamous day. June the 2nd, 2008. Loss. In a short amount of time, parodies, mockery and memes about this strip were everywhere. Somehow Buckley never anticipated his very serious attempt at making Ethan and Lila like actual relatable human beings would be received with mockery at best, open hostility at worst. Everyone knows the memes that came thanks to Loss, but few talk about what happened to the comic itself, because that's where the melodrama truly began, from more sappy interactions between Ethan and Lila and desperate attempts to make us care about them. A few years of weak attempts to milk any kind of plausible human interaction of these characters later, Buckley eventually tried to go back to his roots, making Ctrl+Alt+Delete a webcomic about games, gamers and their wacky hijinks again. But even after that, the webcomic never became free of criticism, be it art plagiarism or racism accusations. Still, the general hatred of the comic was beginning to dissipate, even if Buckley himself was considered the antichrist of comedy.
Warm, warm, it's always warm here.
In November of 2012, after 10 long years of CAD, after what seemed like another terrible melodramatic plot began to conclude, readers were shocked when Ethan was seemingly killed off, dying in a valiant effort to save the future from a bad timeline or some crap. His friends mourn their loss, Lucas names his son after Ethan, and Ethan himself even gets a goddamn Church of Gaming named after him. This is so absurd, but still, looking at Ethan tearing up as he remembers his true love, his wife and the mother of his his wife and his best friend Lila, I felt something. An end of an era. A comic I mocked for years coming to an end, killing off its unlikable asshole of a hero. I was this close to shedding a tear for Ethan. But this comic is Tim Buckley's bread and butter after all, so reboot! The comic continued as normal, but this time it returned to its roots for real this time and focused on video game gags, with the recurring characters being these weird guys in primary colors or something. Honestly, no one gave a damn anymore, and the comic's velocity slowed to a crawl, with Buckley sometimes cranking out only 1 or 2 comics a month. You may notice from the last strips featuring Ethan, however, that his art had gotten significantly better, and as 2012 slowly turned to 2017, he kept improving. In January 2017, he surprised his patrons and later other readers with the unexpected return of the King of Wintry Mess, Ethan's stupid made-up Christmas replacement holiday. So basically, Ethan and Lucas are back, albeit not appearing as frequently as before. But the comic has gone from being a rich fountain of solid mockery to just being lifeless and dull, with the writing remaining as forgettable as it was in 2002 or 2012.
I can't see a thing.
It's been a long recap of taking a steamy dump on this webcomic, but let's not forget that in 2009, CAD was getting 1.8 million monthly unique visitors. I'm guessing a combination of ad revenue, Patreon, sales of prints, and a successful Kickstarter to fund the creation of a book have allowed Buckley to live pretty comfortably. Even though he rebooted the comic and pretended its flaws didn't exist, even Buckley would probably admit that the animated adaptation of the comic, launched in 2006, was the most god-awful creation to ever grace the internet. And this is coming from someone who has watched even the new Nostalgia Critic installments. Remember when I mentioned Buckley's revenue sources? One of them was CAD Premium, a subscription-based service where you would get exclusive Ctrl+Alt+Delete content in exchange for money. I can only hope that one of the highest tier perks was a real replica of Ethan's stupid mini controller he wanted to give his unborn baby. Ctrl+Alt+Delete, the animated series, was released through this channel. Now let's reiterate, you had to pay to watch this veritable miscarriage of animated content. The show that begins with Ethan being an unsympathetic, annoying jackass.
Will my PS2 play Xbox games? Excuse me, I need to know if Halo will play on my PS2?
I'm sorry, I don't speak stupid, and our translator called out sick today.
And it gets a lot worse. You could get better animation from a Newgrounds hentai parodies for free. The voice acting could sound like it was recorded over Skype on a cheap headset mic during a snowstorm. And the humor, already coming from a bad webcomic, was sank even to lower depths in animated form thanks to terrible delivery. Episodes were only a few minutes in length, and not counting the intro and the end credits, there was barely 2 to 3 minutes of original animation in one single episode. One episode had no background music or voice acting, just stock sound effects and gags that only made you depressed and wishing you were spending your time watching better shows. There was a whole trilogy that was a parody of Star Wars and featured Ethan practically committing terrorist acts in the name of gamers. And somehow this show got a second season, edgier than ever, looking considerably worse, and with the voice actors mysteriously replaced by even worse performers, the Buckley paid with, I'm assuming, crack and shiny bottle caps. This whole atrocity was partly produced by Blind Ferret Entertainment, and alongside Buckley, guess who else was helming the project? Ryan Somer, creator of my all-time favorite waste of bandwidth, Least I Could Do, a webcomic I named as the worst of all time in my earlier video. Looking at this, you can probably imagine why this failed and almost bankrupted the studio involved when no TV network picked up this masterpiece. By the way, I kinda wanna do a stream where I watch these horrible episodes of this series and comment on it, but I'm afraid I might shoot myself at the end of it. Still, let me know if that's something you'd want to see.
It's gonna rain down fire. It's gonna burn us all.
So yes, Ctrl+Alt+Delete is shit. Just like Adam Ellis before his departure from BuzzFeed, and just like Least I Could Do or Sanichu. Just making this video was hard enough considering how badly his website is designed. But I can't help but to think that there's a weird charm to these stupid comics. After being introduced to things like Jay Naylor's furry sex / right-wing propaganda mouthpiece Better Days, and Javis Ray's disturbing legacy control, and a slew of other awful comics you guys have suggested to me, thanks by the way, I feel affection to Ctrl+Alt+Delete. Especially all the memes, and not just Loss, but everything cringy and unfunny this comic has spawned. So thank you Tim Buckley for making us all laugh, even if it wasn't in the ways that you intended.